Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press is Friday, October 4th, 2024. And featured on the front, pictures from the Indigenous Culture Day in Neepawa. Scenes from the 4th annual Indigenous Culture Day held in Neepawa on September 27th. Top left, a round of high fives with the grass dancer hypes the crowd. Bottom left, students gather around one of the many learning stations. And on the right, the fancy shawl dance was one of many dances shared that day. Education, harmony, and diversity. Neepawa's The Flats home to 4th Annual Indigenous Culture Day by Casper Warehan. And pictured at the top, a grass dancer and a jingle dress dancer performed during the group dance at Indigenous Culture Day, as those in attendance stretch their legs, watch, and dance as well. And pictured on the bottom, students participating in a couple of the available learning stations. Above, making bannock. To the right, learning how to make ribbon skirts. And on the far right, examining materials at the beading station. An opportunity to learn, connect, and share in Indigenous culture returned to Neepawa once again with the 4th edition of Indigenous Cultural Day on September 27th. Put on in partnership between Arts Forward, the town of Neepawa, and the local area First Nations leaders, this event is held annually with the purpose of the community coming together, promoting unity, and uplifting and celebrating the voices and traditions of Indigenous people. Indigenous Culture Day is also hosted in conjunction with the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, as well as Orange Shirt Day. Ebb and Flow First Nation, Sandy Bay First Nation, Wewesikapo First Nation, Tatasqueyak Cree Nation, and Rolling River First Nation were all represented at the event. Students attending were from Neepawa and Carberry schools, with the general public also welcome to attend. The day officially kicked off at the Flats at 10 a.m. with the presentation of a tobacco offering from Mayor Brian Headley to Master of Ceremonies Darren Mousseau. A Treaty 2 territory land acknowledgement and opening remarks followed. Below are a portion of those speeches. The town of Neepawa is proud to partner with Arts Forward on their 4th annual Indigenous Culture Day. I'd like to thank them for their vision, planning, and organization on this important and significant event, said Headley. It not only serves to diminish racism, but also promotes education, harmony, diversity, and increases honor and respect for Indigenous culture within our community. Glenn Simard, Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism, stepped forward next, stating, "Before I became a politician, I was a teacher. We never had these days set aside, and it's great to see that across Manitoba today, there are events like this happening. Not only do we get a day off on Monday, but we take the time to remember as a community what it means when we say every child matters." Simard added later, "I want all the kids to remember on Monday to take time to reflect on why they're not at school." With opening remarks complete, the mic was passed back to Mousseau. The day's activities included educational and humorous stories from Mousseau, explanations and demonstrations of dances such as the grass dance, jingle dress, fancy shawl, and more. At the conclusion of the powwow presentations, all present exchanged a very hearty miigwech with Mousseau, a word that can be noted can be used for goodbye. Miigwech also means thank you. "Thank you all very much for coming out and learning about us," said Mousseau. The morning session was then capped off with the opportunity for some students to participate at a variety of different learning stations. Further presentations were held in the afternoon, running until 3 p.m. Arts Forward Administrator Yvonne Sisley shared on the morning of October 1st that, including both students and members of the general public, an approximate total of just over 2,200 people attended Indigenous Culture Day. Sisley also shared words of appreciation, stating, "We are so honored to partner with the town of Neepawa in hosting an event that inspires learning and connection to the Indigenous culture. Thanks is extended to all who shared in the day and helped to make it a success." And Freestyle Fun in Neepawa by Casper Warehan. New local students club make their mark in the downtown. Pictured on the left, students hard at work painting their murals on the evening of September 25th. Pictured right, a few of the completed murals can be seen here as they appeared in the days following the completion. Take a look by the Roxy Theatre to see all of them if you are in town. An extra touch of style and vibrance was added to Neepawa's downtown last week. Paintbrushes were brandished and students were hard at work painting the frontage of 287 Hamilton Street. The painting project was conducted by the newly formed NACI Community Art Club and resulted in the creation of a set of freestyle murals. Katie Martin, a well-known Canadian fine artist in this area and NACI art teacher, provided the Neepawa Banner and Press with the inside scoop. After attending the Your Town Rising meeting, I was inspired to continue transforming our town through the arts. I knew that as the art teacher at NACI, I already had a fantastic collection of eager artists to join me, Martin enthused. I joined forces with a number of other women who were in attendance at the meeting, and together we are doing our part to beautify, revitalize, and sprinkle inspiration throughout Neepawa. Martin added, "The students had a blast painting into the evening. I heard lots of giggles and positive chatter, and I even heard one student say, 'This is the best night ever.' I'm already so proud of these kids, and we've barely gotten started." A little effort makes a big impact. Martin noted that permission to paint the front of the building was gathered from the owner by Economic Development Officer Marilyn Crew, and that a grand total of 31 kids had signed up to do the club so far. The club will run year-long and tackle several community art projects, said Martin, from more murals to a painted bench to a holiday door photo booth for the town, holiday window painting for downtown businesses, as well as seasonal decoration for our street lamps along Mountain Avenue. With all these projects planned, residents and visitors should keep an eye open for the new items of interest popping up in the future. And looking back, pictured, residents of Neepawa's Eastview Lodge gathered to bid farewell to Harold Castleman, who acted as administrator of the facility for 8 years, around this time in October of 1974. Alan Anderson, right foreground, presented a gift, and Percy Baker, center background, spoke a few words of appreciation. Castleman also received a gift from the nursing staff, which was presented by Pearl Lucan. And seen here in the bottom picture is another issue from October 3rd, 1974, Neepawa Press. It was off to Moscow for Doug White, Mike Pasowski, Cliff Nicholson, and Eddie Williams of Neepawa. They were taking the trip to join the 2,800 fans cheering on Team Canada at Moscow Stadium in a hockey series against the Russian international team. The sign was made by them to use in the stands. The 1974 Summit Series was played between the Soviet Union and a group of professional players from the World Hockey Association. And going further back, 125 years ago, 1899. A well-executed group photograph of the Neepawa football team, intermediate champions of Manitoba, adorns the window of W.B. St. John's studio. 100 years ago. What happened to our baker? He arrived on the scene and disappeared so quickly. Did he get cold feet? Or may we expect him to begin operations? Arden raising potatoes seems to have been the general employment this past 10 days. We report a splendid yield and good quality. Kilwood. Tuesday's mixed train jumped the track near Norgate after leaving Kilwood. The section men were called out to help clear the track. McCreary. Under present management, the Grandview Hotel is rapidly regaining its reputation of years ago, when it was the best advertisement that McCreary had. This hostelry has had its ups and downs, more of the latter than former in recent times, but is now decidedly up to all reasonable requirements. 75 years ago, 1949, W.G. Pollock, who served as mayor of Neepawa for 17 years, will mark his 89th birthday Saturday, October 8th. He retired as mayor in 1947. 50 years ago, October 1974, Mrs. Shirley Breese, winner of the local talent contest and twice winner of the Rose Bowl Trophy in the Neepawa Fine Arts Festival, participated in Search for Talent, provincial final Sunday afternoon in Winnipeg's Centennial Concert Hall. Mrs. Breese was heard in 2 delightful vocal numbers. During the week of August 26 to 31st, 50,000 Scotch pines were planted by approximately 17 local men and women on Crown land in Eden and Riding Mountain area. 4 Neepawa residents departed from Winnipeg Airport Sunday afternoon to join the 2,800 fans cheering on Team Canada at Moscow Stadium in the current hockey series against the Russian international team. Note the individuals who went to Moscow were Doug White, Mike Pasowski, Cliff Nicholson, and Eddie Williams. McCreary. The McCreary Catholic Women's Church Second Mass of Thanksgiving in honor of the Mother of God, the patroness of the Catholic Women's League, the occasion being the 25th anniversary of the McCreary Catholic Women's League. Shorter warranties on tractors and combines, formation of a Farm Machinery Act fund, and the extension of emergency parts service to tractors for certain times of the year are the major amendments to the Farm Act, recently announced by Minister of Agriculture Sam Yusku. The changes became effective September 1st. 20 years ago, 2004, the town of Neepawa is moving into a new office space. At last Tuesday's meeting, council announced its plans to purchase Hamilton Square for $325,000. And there's an ad here, winter tire sale from J. Rana and Son of McCreary from 1974. Bulk antifreeze, check your battery. If only the prices were the same now. And moving on, Right in the Center by Ken Waddell. And as usual, the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the newspaper staff. Keep them poor and uninformed. Last year about this time, I wrote about the danger of the elites and allowing an elite group of people run organizations. I hope you think it's a topic worth revisiting. One of the organizations in question was the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba. I outlined how, over a few decades, a once vibrant grassroots party led its organization and leadership to become at best mediocre. I got some definite feedback on that subject. Another thought came to me today, and that is, why do governments like keeping people poor and uninformed? I think the answer is surprisingly simple. Poor, uninformed people are easier to control and keep dependent on governments. Think about it. Why are there so many poor people in the Middle East? Palestine, Gaza, Syria, and many African countries are very poor. We have lots of poverty in Canada, too. Thousands of homeless people live in Canadian cities and towns. Many First Nations communities have high levels of poverty and a low level of basic services. Rich people don't need government intervention as much as poor people do, so there is, generally speaking, a lower level of dependence on government among richer people. The bigger the level of dependence, the bigger the government. The higher the level of dependence, the more bureaucrats you need, and that way the government unions get bigger and have more say in government policy. It's a vicious circle. Governments have always been that way. Manitoba was part of the old Northwest Territories, but it was also part of the very old 1670 land grant from the King of England to the Hudson Bay Company. Millions of acres of land with almost no European population was given by King's Charter. For the first 200 years, the population was made up of Indigenous people, a few fur traders, and explorers. By the 1860s, there were also many Métis people who fished, hunted, trapped fur-bearing animals, traded in various goods and services, and farmed. The government of Canada decided to expand and bought a parcel of land from the HBC, and decided also to survey the land with a view to development. Just so you can be assured that governments haven't changed much, Canada didn't tell the residents around Red River about their intentions. The residents didn't like the risk that their land could be confiscated. After a period of ever-increasing tension, Louis Riel objected and took some military-style action. It's a long story, but the bottom line is the Métis and other residents of Red River area neither wanted government interference, nor did they want to be dependent on government. The government of Canada totally botched their intentions and communications. Riel set up a provisional government and council. Some violence erupted and 3 men died of violent or accidental deaths. One of the deaths was an execution. It wasn't pretty, but out of that turmoil and violence, Manitoba was born. Many will argue that Louis Riel was wrong and that his actions of 1869 and his later actions in 1885 were treasonous. That's a valid argument, but it's also valid that had Riel and his followers not stood their ground, more violence may well have happened. As is often the case, a senior level of government didn't have a hot clue about local traditions, values, customs, or conditions. They assumed that they were dealing with poor, uninformed people who obviously must be told how to live in dependence on government. Riel made a number of mistakes, but I have long argued that he should receive recognition, and he did in 1992, when then Premier Gary Filmon declared that Riel was the founder of Manitoba. Last spring, Premier Wab Kinew brought in legislation that declared Riel as Manitoba's first premier. The 1992 recognition of Riel was a good move, and that was done by the PC Party. Yes, the party that I described above as a once vibrant grassroots party. It would appear that the move by Wab Kinew is a good move, as was the move by Filmon. As I said earlier, Riel made mistakes, as did Filmon, and so will Kinew. The successes of Riel and Filmon came from listening to the local people. If Kinew is successful, he will follow that same path. Hopefully, Kinew will recognize that the people must be listened to, not just the bureaucracy, the unions, and the political elites. Excuse me. Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. Up in the air so blue. It was a simple image that Sister the Younger sent me. A swing like the one that we enjoyed in our Aunt Tilly's yard. A sturdy plank, possibly 4 or 5 feet long, suspended by 2 sets of ropes or light chains. It would have taken a robust person to operate it on their own, but with 2 children swinging, you could gain great momentum. And with the plank, why, you could carry passengers. That made even more sense since Aunt Tilly and Uncle Pete had 5 children, including a set of twin boys. We discovered the swing has its own title. It's a Russian swing, and considering our migratory history, that's logical. The Russian swing wasn't the only swing in my aunt's yard. The wooden glider swing under the trees was the perfect place to sit and simply be. Sometimes it would be my mom and her sisters sitting out there, sometimes us cousins, and best of all, mixed generations. What was designed to be a 4-seater held many more. We must have been a swinging family. These glider swings, handmade, grace so many of my family yards, usually painted white. Swings have always appealed to me. Way back in elementary school, we memorized Swings by Robert Louis Stevenson. How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it the pleasantest thing ever a child can do. Years later, a friend and I double pumped on the school high swing. We were considered too old, but there was no one waiting a turn, and the day was perfect. Remember how you wanted to go high enough to see over the top support of the structure? We achieved that when one rope broke. You can only imagine ropeworm we had on their hand that rapidly slid along the prickly rope before we landed. We received 0 sympathy from the staff. They felt, probably justified, that grade 11 girls should not have been in the high swinging in the first place. Ed understood my love for the quiet, gentle movement of a swing. One of the first things he set up at the farm at Riding Mountain was a single-seat swing from the giant oak tree. Yes, we had young children, and yes, they got to play on it as well, but the swing was for me. I was in my early 30s. When we moved to the acreage almost 20 years later, Ed once again strung the rope and notched a board for my swing, this time in the front yard from the strong arm of a maple tree. I have never been brave enough to climb a tree and swing it down, though I have dreamt of doing it. It's safer and wiser to read again Robert Frost Birches. He describes a young farm lad carefully climbing to the very top of a slender birch tree and flinging himself outward and kicking his way through the air to the ground. I'd like to get away from the earth a while and then come back to it and begin over. One could do worse than being a swinger of birches. Those lines. Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine. Tips for Teachers, Part 5. One of my favorite motivational speakers was the late Dr. Howard Hendricks, Professor Emeritus of Education at Dallas Theological Seminary in Texas. One of his classic sermons was based on 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed. In this sermon, Hendricks posed 3 questions he felt every minister should ask after every worship service, home visit, coffee appointment, or casual encounter. First, I have developed 3 questions to help today's teachers evaluate their role, their record, and the impact they are having in the lives of their students. But I would urge all my readers to join me in asking the same questions and applying them to our lives at home, at work, in our churches, and in our communities. First question, is your work well done? Are you the best you can be at all times, in all circumstances? Please don't get me wrong here. I understand that some jobs can be very stressful. If you have 30 students in a classroom, to which you add 1 teacher, you now have 31 times 30, over 900 possible interactions between teacher and student, or student and student. Any one of those interactions can become a volatile at any time and throw your classroom into chaos. On a good day, keeping order in class can be challenging, but not all days are good days, not for students and not for teachers. So don't expect perfection, because you will never achieve it. Strive for excellence. Strive to be the best you can at all times and in all places, in the classroom, in the community, and in casual conversations with people you meet around town. That is all we ask of you and of ourselves. Excuse me. Second question, are your students well served? Every school term is filled with hellos and goodbyes. Teachers say hello to a new class in September and bid them goodbye at the end of the term. Between the first hello and the last goodbye, they must get to know their students and find creative ways to help each student understand and retain the course material for that term. Overcoming this challenge is hard enough, but teachers have the added burden of ensuring that their school provides a safe environment for learning, an atmosphere that is as free as possible from bias, prejudice, racism, bullying, and other similar dangers. Teachers are not miracle workers. They cannot be everywhere at the same time. We should not expect them to be super people. All we ask is that they do their best. Then we can be assured that our students have been well served. Third question, is the community well pleased? A student's achievement during a school year should never be measured by grades alone. As a community, we want to see growth in other areas of a student's life. We want to see the development of a strong work ethic, improved social skills, sound decision-making, and a willingness to accept responsibility for their decisions and actions. We want them to be their best and do their best in their careers, in their relationships, and especially in the way they pass their values on to their children. A new school year is before us. I pray that, when it ends, teachers, students, and community will be able to answer each of the above questions with a resounding yes. Our work was well done, our students were well served, and our community is well pleased. Faith and Family by Tara Kohnhoffen. Waves and Wind. We spent this weekend camping, soaking in the last little bits of summer. The heat from the sun offset the frigid water at the beach. The trees a mix of green, yellow, orange, red, and some with no leaves at all. All clear signs that fall has arrived and winter is on its way soon enough. The second to last day of our trip, the wind came howling into our campsite. And if you know me, you know I do not like the wind. I will sit outside and watch a thunderstorm, completely in awe of the lightning dancing across the sky and through the clouds. I'll watch hail come pebbling down as it seems to act like jumping beans, bouncing off the ground and seemingly hopping up out of the grass. But the wind makes me deeply uncomfortable, and sometimes when it's strong enough, fearful. The wind reminds me that there are mighty forces outside my control. The wind that can make trees crack and bend in half, can take leaves right off, rip shingles off the roof. The wind that can turn into a tornado, tearing apart everything in its path with no mercy. As I sat and watched the trees at our campsite, as I heard the cracking of the branches, I wanted nothing more than to crawl into a hole and hide until the world was calm again. And all I could think was, how often do we walk through seasons of life like that, where we are deeply uncomfortable, we want to feel forward motion, we want to walk through the discomfort, or sometimes run as fast as we can away from it. We want to crawl into bed and hide until the storm passes, until everything is bright and sunny again. But God, in his infinite wisdom and omniscience, says, hold your posts. He asks us to stand in the gap between the season of life you came from to the one on the other side of the wind. He says to stand in the wind so we are reminded that he is God, he is good, and he is in control. That the waves and the windstorms of life know his name and obey his call to be still in his time, in his way. We are asked to halt and hold in the grip in the wind so we can be reminded where our help comes from and who we are truly to rely on. The wind may have made me uncomfortable that day, but I stood. I closed my eyes and I listened and was reminded to hold my post, to trust that he has guided my steps through the storm, and in his perfect timing, I will come out on the other side. Excuse me. Thumbs up and thumbs down. A big thumbs up to the Neepawa Garden Club. The group has done an incredible job planting 23 planters along Highway 16 and 15 throughout town. They make great use of the town grant for this project, but they also fundraise to cover additional costs and generously donate perennials from their own gardens. As well, a special shout out to Gloria Speece, the dedicated town employee who tirelessly maintains those planters and many boar flower beds all summer long. Thank you all for your hard work and commitment to making Neepawa beautiful. From Marcia Forgue, Neepawa. And a huge thumbs up to Matt and his crew at the Neepawa Cemetery for their artistry and massive amount of work it entailed to recreate a one-of-a-kind landscape around the Legion Memorial that reflects the serenity of the surroundings. From the Neepawa Legion Ladies Auxiliary. And moving on, Gladstone Market Report by Tyler Slowinski. As the good weather continues, every pound that is gained seems to be well worth the wait, so to speak. Some areas of the prairies have had a visit from old Jack Frost, while other areas may see some later this week. Grass is still quite palatable, and many producers are taking full advantage of the late gains. We sold 1,368 head of cattle through the ring in Gladstone, Manitoba yesterday. The market this week was fairly active. The cattle futures seem to have turned the right color and headed in the right direction for a change. Although the futures were in our favor, we still saw areas in the market that showed signs of pressure. We are still seeing plenty of yearling being traded, and the first cut top-notch early wet-nosed calves are making their way into the market, gearing up for a fall run. Cows traded under a little more pressure this week due to the stronger Canadian dollar and an abundance of cull cows on the market across the prairies. Cows still traded quite reasonably from $155 to $180 with steady averages. Bulls traded a shade back, ranging between $195 to $210. All classes of cattle sold well. Plainer type cattle are still being discounted. Cattle producers, call ahead to book your livestock in for the next sale as we are filling up fast. And Out of Helen's Kitchen by Helen Drysdale. Today she features celery. Celery was once considered an autumn vegetable, however it is now available year-round in the grocery stores. Wild celery was native to the Mediterranean and Middle East areas and is a member of the parsley family. The Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians believed celery was capable of regenerating the mind and body. The ancient Greeks and Romans wove celery leaves into the victory crown of star athletes. The seeds produce a spice, which is used to make celery vinegar, a popular condiment in the 18th century. The seeds are used to spice various recipes and to make celery salt, an ingredient in a classic Bloody Mary cocktail. Celery is a silent building block of so many dishes, so much that it doesn't really get its due. Many stock, stir-fry, stuffing, and sandwich filling, casserole, salad, and soup recipe call for celery. But it does make a great vegetable on its own. In Canada, we love our celery sticks filled with cheese or peanut butter. The average North American eats about 6 pounds of celery per year. Its low calorie value and significant fiber content make it a popular food item. Celery is a great source of essential vitamins and minerals. It contains 28% of your daily needed vitamin K, as well as vitamin A, C, B6, and minerals like potassium, calcium, and folate. The downside to celery is it is typically exposed to many pesticides, and it is considered one of the dirty dozen, as it is a produce sprayed very frequently with pesticides. Celery can be stored for several weeks when kept refrigerated. Your best bet is getting rid of the plastic bag and wrapping it in aluminum foil, or store them in an airtight container. And she includes 2 recipes, celery soup and celery pear salad. Your Listening Ear by Dilsey Martin. Understanding Anxiety, Signs, Symptoms, and Coping Strategies. Anxiety is a feeling that we will all cope with at some point in our lives. However, people will feel it in different intensities for different durations. If you've never experienced intense anxiety, the feeling can be quite scary and leave you with a feeling of helplessness. My goal today is to help you feel informed about your anxiety and have some practical tools that can help you. Anxiety is that looming feeling that something just isn't right. It makes you feel like someone is out to get you, like you are powerless to affect change in your life, and like your life is out of control. When people experience anxiety, they may feel like they have a heavy, tight chest, a racing heart. They may get tingly sensations all over their body. They may feel sweaty and hot, like their thoughts are racing and like they are losing control. Inside their head, they may have thoughts like, I can't do this, it's all too much. Something bad is going to happen. From the outside, people might observe someone who is restless, tapping their fingers or fidgeting, tense posture, rapid breathing or sighing, or someone speaking quickly. They might also observe someone withdrawing into themselves, avoiding eye contact, retreating from social settings, or frequently apologizing. Anxiety is an intense feeling, a scary feeling, but not something that is unsolvable. Noticing your personal symptoms of anxiety is the first step to addressing them. First, recognize when anxiety is coming on. These could be small signs like sweaty palms or tight chest. Then, when you notice that anxiety is coming, don't assume that you don't need strategies to address it. We all need strategies to work our way through our anxiety. Once you recognize the anxiety coming, launch into deep breathing to calm the nervous system. A deep breathing meditation. Breathe in, hold it at the top of the breath for 5 seconds, then breathe out, taking that breath out as slowly as you possibly can. Repeat this breath as many times as you need, stopping if you get lightheaded. As you breathe, say to yourself a coping thought to calm the mind. A coping thought is any thought that brings you peace. I use the coping thought, I'm okay, I've got this. Other folks may use breathe, this too shall pass, or I am loved. Then use a distraction technique. This can be anything that works for you, but some folks might walk the dog, phone a friend, play a video game, watch a YouTube video, color, or draw. These strategies take practice because you must teach your brain how to be soothed, but with time, repetition, and patience, they will make a big difference in your ability to manage anxiety. Anxiety is a normal bodily response, so give yourself some grace when you experience it. It doesn't mean you aren't handling things well. It doesn't mean that you are damaged. It means that you are human. You've got this. Business After 5 at Taylor Law Patterson's LLP. The Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce organized a Business After 5 at Taylor Law Patterson's LLP on Wednesday, September 25th. Law office staff are, from left to right, standing Karen McDonald, Courtney Jakubowski, Raven Kabahu, Lee Paff, Cynthia Babadella, and Denise Umali. Sitting, Sarah Fast and Jody Wyman. And an acknowledgement. The Neepawa Banner and Press wishes to extend the following acknowledgement regarding the Neepawa's Got Pride event, which took place on September 15th and was featured in the September 20th, 24 edition of the paper. The circumstances of the day, such as scheduling in relation to the many community and area events taking place that Sunday, as well as space restrictions within the paper, meant that some items from Neepawa's Got Pride were unable to specifically be highlighted. As such, the final paragraph of the story on this event was intended to acknowledge all events that took place and any such items that could not be spotlighted. However, it may not have sufficiently accomplished that goal. For this, the Neepawa Banner and Press apologizes. One such item that was unable to be highlighted was the performance of Jonathan Scher, also known as JJ Scher, who took the stage to kick off the entertainment sometime after the opening ceremonies. Scher is a performer based in the Canadian prairies. He brought forward a wonderful routine that mixed dance, feats of body strength, and flexibility that was well received by the crowd. According to information provided to the Neepawa Banner and Press, Scher has performed at Rainbow Stage in Winnipeg, as well as other venues such as theaters. There is sure to be more in store for this rising star. Neepawa to host 9th annual What's the Big Idea by Casper Warehan. Big ideas are on the horizon once more. On October 17th, the 9th annual What's the Big Idea will be hosted in the Neepawa Legion from 9 a.m. to approximately 4:30 p.m. Inspired by television program Dragon's Den, excuse me, this event was first held by Neepawa's Economic Development in 2015 with the purpose of inviting entrepreneurs to pitch their ideas for new or expanding business to a panel of judges. Those participating also have the chance to receive grants for their business propositions. This event is an important way to support entrepreneurship in our region. The startup phase is the most challenging for business, and I feel that this event provides education and resources to encourage success, said Crew. The networking between the new businesses is also important, as they are all at the same stage and can support each other. Crew added, the support from the wards is strong for this 9th event, with over $40,000 in cash and prizes, and I think that shows that the community sees the value in this business development day. Crew shared that as of September 26, she was working with 7 businesses for the 2024 What's the Big Idea. These businesses are located in the Minnedosa area, Rosedale, North Cypress, Langford, and Neepawa. Entries are also still being accepted until October 10th. Anyone interested is asked to reach out directly to Crew at the Economic Development Office, either via phone 204-476-7607 or email edo@neepawa.ca. Providing a final comment, Crew emphasized that What's the Big Idea is free to attend and open to the public. The pitch parlor starts at 1 p.m. and attending is a great opportunity to support our new businesses, said Crew. And this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press acknowledges and offers a big thanks to all the regional firefighters in our area, and featured the Neepawa Fire Department, Minnedosa, Westlake Gladstone, Alonza, Plumas, Arden, Glenella, Laurier, McGregor, Kelwood, and Carberry, Clan William Erickson, Onanoil, and Eden. A big thanks and a lot of appreciation goes out to these men and women who serve as firefighters. Sports. Neepawa Titans bow to the Kings. Cooper Kasprick, number 20, and the Neepawa Titans faced the challenge of the Dauphin Kings in a pair of games last weekends. The Kings would come out on top, winning 4-1 on Friday, September 27th in Neepawa, and 3-1 the next night in Dauphin. Combined with a 5-1 loss to Waiwasi-Kapo on Monday, September 30th, Neepawa's record has fallen to 2-3-1 on the season. And Grit Force Fitness hits the next level. Several members of Grit Force Fitness in Neepawa, the above picture here, participated in the 2024 NXTLVL, which I would pronounce Next Level, games held last weekend in Winnipeg. The Next Level games are made up of a series of high-intensity fitness maneuvers that involved varied functional movements. For our local participants, a pair of teams made it to the podium as the combos named The Rookie and the Vet, above right, and Les Papa Cool, bottom right. Each finished in second and third place, respectively, in their categories. Congratulations to both those tandems, as well as all the other local competitors who pushed themselves and took their efforts to the next level. And a Truth and Reconciliation golf tournament held at Neepawa. With Monday, September 30th, being National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, many events were taking place in the Neepawa Banner and Press area leading up to that day. Among those was the Sandy Bay Truth and Reconciliation Golf Tournament. The tournament was held the day prior, on September 29th, at the Neepawa Golf and Country Club, and as can be seen here, there was a mass turnout for the day's tournament. The largest banner in the top photo reads, "Every Child Matters," and there is quite a lot of people. It's probably too dark to see, but it's packed. And fall crafts at Neepawa Legion. With the turn of the season to fall brings the annual Margaret Lawrence Home Fall Craft Sale. The sale was held on September 28th at the Neepawa Legion from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and had a wide variety of vendors and products. Products at the sale ranged greatly and included jewelry, hot pepper products, specialty writing tools made of rare and or unusual materials, and much, much more. Plenty to catch the eye of those among the steady flow of attendees. And pictured a portion of the day's crowd and the vendor displays. Kate Jackman Atkinson and daughter Evie of Birch Handmade were selling items such as toques and bookmarks. And Donna Freeman had a display of needle felt works, including seasonal and custom ornaments for any time of the year. And the accessible playground officially opened in Neepawa. Neepawa's Touchwood Park marked a momentous occasion on Wednesday, September 25th, with the official grand opening of the new accessible playground. A celebration was held from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 145 Commerce Street, where the playground is located. A large crowd attended the event, which included a barbecue with the Neepawa Titans, tours of the day service building, and a ceremonial ribbon cutting. The ribbon cutting was conducted by Deputy Mayor Murray Parrott, Board Member Jeff Braun, Touchwood Park's Board of Directors Executive Director Arlie Wilson, and Assistant Executive Director Holly Pancrans, who are pictured here. And pictured here, a portion of the crowd that attended. Individuals from the ribbon cutting posed for a portion of the new play structure. So that was quite an event. And a great show of support in Gladstone for the annual Terry Fox Breakfast and Walk. The pancake breakfast has become a bit of a tradition in Gladstone as the kickoff of the Terry Fox Run each September. On Sunday, September 15th, an event to honor the legacy of Terry Fox was held in Stride Hall in Gladstone. In total, 130 people attended the pancake breakfast, raffle, and walk. Once the numbers from the event were tabulated, the community of Gladstone was able to raise an impressive $8,154 for this important cause. Members of the local organizing committee would like to send a big thank you to all the volunteers and participants who made this day a big success. Thanks also to all those who provided donations. Each September, communities across Canada and around the world assemble to raise money for cancer research and celebrates the memory of Fox and his Marathon of Hope. Since 1981, the Terry Fox Foundation has been able to raise just over $900 million. And Austin Woolen Mill update by Ken Waddell. Back in April, the Neepawa Banner and Press covered the grand opening of the Austin Woolen Mill. About 400 people showed up for the mill tours, tea and sweets, and some shopping. The Manitoba Sheep Association was there answering questions about Manitoba's sheep breeds and methods of flock management. Austin Woolen Mill is now offering a Learn to Knit course for beginners. We set up our vendor booth at 2 fiber festivals this summer, and we're hoping to build on that experience to serve you better. The company attended the Blue Hills Fiber Festival in Carberry in June, and the Manitoba Fiber Festival in September 6th and 7th. The Manitoba Fiber Fest also brought a surge in interest in custom processing, and their schedule is now filled up for a bit more than 12 months, but new applicants are being scheduled for fall of 2025. And the Gladstone United Church celebrates the 100th. The congregation for the Gladstone United Church celebrated a very important milestone on Sunday, September 29th, as the church celebrated the anniversary of its opening back in 1924. And finally, Portage La Prairie hosts Orange Shirt Day. Pictured here is a scene from Orange Shirt Day, held in Portage La Prairie on September 30th. This event was put on by the National Indigenous Residential School Museum in collaboration with the Long Plain First Nation of Treaty 1 territory. The day included a reconciliation honor walk from Portage City Hall to the National Indigenous Residential School Museum of Canada, Inc., escorted by ADC security and horses from Meach's Ranch. A minute of silence for all Indigenous residential school survivors and children who did not make it home. Opening remarks from Chief David Meaches, Long Plain First Nation, Deputy Mayor Terry Porter, MLA Jeff Brezza, and Councillor Liz Merrick. Food, a mini powwow demonstration as shown above, and much more. And that includes the reading of the Neepawa Banner Press for Friday, October 4th. I hope you enjoyed.